Hi, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, my fellow judges, and proud members of Bessie's family, and above all, Bessie's husband and daughters, Alex, Violet, and Sylvia. Good afternoon to you all. Welcome to the communal celebration of the ceremonial swearing-in of Justice Bessie Dewar. My name is Serge Georges, Jr., and I'm an Associate Justice of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, and I'm honored that Bessie asked me to serve as the host of this afternoon's festivities. Today is a real day of celebration for Bessie and her family in this court. It's to honor our court's history and traditions while glimpsing at the future for our institution with our new people, with the same confidence and the same hope that we've always had in our institution. But just as we celebrate Justice Dewar's newfound home here at the SJC, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the passing of our former Associate Justice, Charles Freed. Justice Freed served this court with distinction from 1995 to 1999, but he was equally known for his life and career as a lawyer and longtime member of the Harvard Law School staff. I would ask you all to please stand with me in a silent moment of reflection for respect for Justice Charles Freed. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. So this morning, in finalizing what I was going to say today, I had occasion to sit with Bessie, and she started to tell me about the anticipation of all her family and friends that were going to be here this afternoon to celebrate with her. And after I was speaking with her and I was watching her getting more and more animated when she was telling me about all of the people that was going to come and how excited she was, I started to get more and more of a glimpse of who she is. And I could feel the palpable sense of gratitude that she has for all of her family and friends, for all of the moments that they shared, moments of ceaseless love and support and sacrifices and encouragement. And with each person as she described, I get this almost concussive effect of the gratitude that was in her heart, the heartfelt thank you with every word that she described who was coming, particularly her husband and her kids. So to each and every one of you, whether you're here physically or not, that she described, that she told me about today, thank you for being here with her today, whether you're here physically or in her heart. Some of these people you will hear from today. People like retired Supreme Court Associate Justice Stephen Breyer, Her Honor and Her Excellency Lieutenant Governor Kimberly Driscoll, and Governor Maura Healey. You'll hear wonderful music by David Kravitz, and from our very own retired Associate Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court, Margot Botsford. Soon enough, you are going to see and bear witness to Bessie swearing this oath. Oaths have been around for as long as people have been able to communicate. It's a testament of someone's commitment to something other than them, someone other than them, some ideal or some task. People have died for oaths. It's this public utterance of a judge is critical, particularly for the judge of last resort. It's a promise to put the Constitution ahead of your own personal ambition, a verbal commitment in public and formally before all of you witnesses that she's going to consider herself to be held to a standard of excellence, that's sacred. Today is indeed a big day, a day for Bessie. On behalf of Chief Justice Budd and my fellow associate members, David Lowy, Frank Gaziano, and Dalila Wendland, welcome. So, let us begin. Our first speaker this afternoon is retired Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, Stephen Breyer. Justice Breyer spent more than 2 decades at the Supreme Court after a distinguished career as not only a lawyer and a Justice of the United States Court of Appeals. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podium Justice Stephen Breyer.
Thank you. Well, This is really nice for me to be back here in Massachusetts, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and justices and Chief Justice, and it's very, and my former clerks. it's very, very nice. I see, this is Massachusetts. How do we know this? Look, right over here we have the Massachusetts Bill of Rights. And I was standing, I just thought of this as I was sitting there. And one time standing in the National Archives. And I turn around, it was a little boring, the speech. And I turn around, and there in the case is a letter from Leverett Saltonstall. And it does Senator, Massachusetts. It says right on the top, and it says 1937 or something like that, 46, I don't know. You'll know the dates, I don't know. But it was fairly recent, and it said Massachusetts hereby ratifies the Bill of Rights. See, I learned. I said, well, what's this going on? He said, the Bill of Rights was never protective enough, I mean the federal bill, for Massachusetts. And that's why they took a while thinking about it before they actually ratified it. Absolutely. Well, we're very pleased to be here, every one of us today. And we're very proud of Bessie. We know that the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts is one of the nation's great courts. That has been so ever since the court was founded, likely in 1692. My gosh. That was before there was a nation. See, they modeled the nation after Massachusetts, but don't tell them. All right. Now, I've been lucky, and I look around here. I've known some of the court's justices who now retired. Afterwards, they retired. And it was, look at this room. It was when Margie Marshall was the Chief Justice that you really made this room. It's terrific. It's terrific. And Ed Hennessy, after he retired as Chief Justice, came over and helped us settle cases in the First Circuit. And he settled case after case. So I couldn't figure out how are the settlement going so much better. And I asked some of the lawyers, and one lawyer told me, he said, it was very simple. Why he settles all those cases? Well, after they have a hearing in front of Ed Hennessy, they've had their trial. See, that's the Supreme Judicial Court. Why go further? Perfect. And it isn't surprising to me that a member of this court, you know his name, Oliver Wendell Holmes, really helped establish what I think of as the great tradition of American law. And a friend of mine once described that tradition as practical. It sees legal interpretation as an activity that is basically pragmatic, undogmatic, adaptive. It understands law as an untidy body of understandings among groups and institutions inherited from the past, open to changes, mostly at the edges, and it communicates its vision not through the application of any single theory, but through detailed study of cases, institutions, history, and above all, the human needs that underlie them. Its practice requires dedication, sensitivity, and an awareness of the variety of the human needs and relationships that underlie our American legal institutions as those institutions seek to help now more than 320 million Americans living together peacefully and productively. This objective, I believe, helps to describe the profession that Bessie will now join. And Bessie will be a fine colleague, a great colleague. She was an outstanding law clerk, bringing to our office intelligence, good character, a cheerful disposition. She helped to make that office a more cheerful and a better place to work. She worked on majority opinions, dissenting opinions, and even a dissenting opinion I remember that we had at that time, where Justice Ginsburg and I dissented from the majority. The majority's decision was that the public must henceforth enter the Supreme Court of the United States through the side door instead of the front door. Well, Ginsburg and I thought that was terrible. and with Bessie's help, we explained why, very clearly, why the front door was important. And I'm surprised they didn't all switch their votes. Well, but they didn't. All right. And I don't know whether you would agree about front doors or side doors. But I do know that you agree that the Supreme Judicial Court deserves congratulations upon the arrival of its newest member. We all congratulate Bessie on her continuing of her public service career, now as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts. And as I said, we are all proud of you, Justice Dewar.
I'm quite certain that Oliver Wendell Holmes would not necessarily appreciate that we were using his namesake courtroom as our green room. And while we were in the green room, our next speaker ambled up to me and said, make sure you don't give the whole big introduction of the speakers. I don't want a big introduction. I lied. Through my teeth. No, I didn't. But listen, we are now going to welcome one of our own, who is a true legend of the Massachusetts judiciary, though she will never admit it. But after 28 years of service to the Commonwealth, the last 10 of which she spent here as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court, what other word could describe her? Please help me welcome Associate Justice Margot Botsford.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. I'm going to start this way. There is no one who has worked with or interacted with Bessie Dewar who does not call her, and I'm quoting here, amazing. I first encountered Bessie when she argued a case before the Supreme Judicial Court in 2016. It was a case about the ballot question involving cages for egg-laying hens. Bessie did a great job. She prevailed in the case, but I have to say that arguing a case about whether a ballot question complies with the related requirements of Article 48 of the Massachusetts Constitution does not offer a brilliant opportunity to show your stuff as an appellate lawyer. But that's okay. I didn't hear any more arguments that Bessie gave in the court because I retired the next year. But then, about a year later, I encountered Bessie around 6:30 in the morning in our neighborhood of JP, where she was running with her posse of other runners, and I was not running, but walking the dog. And we became friends. And so more recently, though, I have come to know Jessie a little bit, or to observe and appreciate her, I should say, in a different way, because I have been doing some volunteer work at Attorney General Campbell's office. And I should say, Attorney General Campbell would be here but is ill today. So in any event, what I wanted to say about that was what became quickly obvious to me in the Attorney General's office was what a critical player Bessie was. She added her special writing and editing skills to all the briefs and memoranda that assistant AGs were preparing. She was an excellent contributor to strategy decisions on cases, and she was loved by everybody, not surprising. I also, I think from all of this, from my experiences on the court and since the court, I think I can say with some assurance that Bessie is a spectacular addition to this court. She brings all the skills I've mentioned. She brings as well, obviously, her remarkable intelligence and equally remarkable level of experience in state and federal civil and criminal law, developed before she joined the Attorney General's office and honed as Solicitor General, also working with other attorneys general on issues of critical importance around the country and that are either here or coming here. I should add that one of Bessie's greatest attributes, in my opinion, is that she is a great believer in state courts, and in the Massachusetts State Court in particular. And I, with all due respect to you, Justice Breyer, where justice is done for the most part, just in terms of numbers, if nothing else, is in the state courts. And Bessie knows that and is, has said to me she is interested in and anxious to participate in working with judges throughout our state court system to make it the best judicial system that we could possibly have. So thank you so much, Governor Healey and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, for nominating Bessie, and thank you, members of the council, for affirming her. I also have one particular and admittedly selfish reason to be so happy. I actually have two, that Bessie is joining the court. The first, of course, is that she's from JP, so we have this little corner of JP that is now SJC, JP. But the second is this. Bessie is occupying the same seat that I occupied on this court. She is the fourth woman in that seat, at least as listed in the historical chart of justices of the Supreme Judicial Court. The first was Simeon Strong in 1801, who retired in 1805. There followed, I've got to count my numbers, 15 men who collectively served for the next 199 years. The gender breakthrough came in 2000 with the appointment of the late Justice Martha Sussman, and it has continued with Justice Cipher most recently holding the seat. I have to say that I feel so proud, knowing Bessie as I do, to have been one of the occupants of the very same seat that she now holds. I want to finish with a few personal details about Bessie. First, if you think by any chance that she is young to be appointed to this court, you should know that her daughters, Violet and Sylvia, would violently disagree with you. I learned from their father, Alex, that both daughters were, and I quote, dumbfounded by the number of questions Bessie was asked about her age at the hearing before the Governor's Council, because in their opinion, she is so old. Second, like the late Justice Rudolph Cass of the Appeals Court, Bessie rides her bike to work, come rain or shine. I think actually Justice Cass didn't ride it in the rain, but Bessie does. Third, lest the biking and running make you think we are dealing with a somewhat obsessive health nut in Bessie, she makes to-die-for Berman balls and great cheese puffs for the holidays, and she has been known to eat some of them herself. But on a more serious note, I have to say first that Bessie, as brilliant and highly accomplished as she is a genuinely humble person who truly listens and exudes empathy. Second, as I said before, she is a genuine team player. Third, she is truly one of the kindest people I have ever met. I salute you, Bessie. You have joined a remarkable court, and I believe you will love being here almost as much as your colleagues, the court clerks, and all the staff of the Supreme Judicial Court will enjoy having you here. Congratulations.
You don't often think of lawyers and their more artistic side. We're too busy with briefs and writing and research to necessarily indulge. But I'm really pleased to introduce our next, not only our speaker, but one of Bessie's true friends. David Kravitz. He currently serves as Deputy State Solicitor in the Office of the Attorney General, and he's going to do a musical interlude for us, but he's going to introduce that to us prior to performing. Please welcome Mr. David Kravitz. Excuse me.
Thank you so much, Justice Georges. I am deeply honored to be part of this celebration of Bessie Dewar joining the Supreme Judicial Court. As Justice Georges mentioned, I work in the State Solicitor's Office, of which Bessie, of course, was the head until she crossed the street to come over here. And so it has been my great pleasure and privilege to work very closely with her for the last almost 7 years in that office. But I am here today not so much in my capacity as a lawyer, but in my other life, which is as an opera singer. And so Bessie asked if I would be willing to offer a musical interlude in for today's ceremony, and I said, of course, I would be delighted. And so in the course of thinking about what I would sing, because it turns out there aren't that many opera arias that are sort of directly thematically related to the swearing in of a Supreme Judicial Court justice. So we sort of talked about it, and we settled on an aria from, this is from the end of the first act of The Marriage of Figaro by Mozart. And so in this aria, just to set it up for you, Figaro, the lead character, has just learned that his good friend is about to embark on new adventures, and he bids a sort of a jocular farewell as his friend heads off to sort of new horizons. I would also like to take the opportunity to introduce my pianist, Brian Mall, who will be accompanying me in the aria and also play the entrance and exit music. So this is Non più andrai from The Marriage of Figaro.
Absolutely spectacular. So, history was made recently when the Massachusetts voters voted and elected in our first all-female governor and lieutenant governor team. They both served the Commonwealth with distinction in their several capacities prior to this elected office. However, just before their election, Lieutenant Governor Kimberly Driscoll served as mayor of the city of Salem, and Governor Healey was our twice-elected Attorney General. Please help me welcome Lieutenant Governor Kimberly Driscoll, who will hand then the podium over to Governor Healey when she's done to offer her remarks and to administer the oath. Please welcome Lieutenant Governor Driscoll.
Thank you, Justice Georges, and good afternoon, everyone. What an amazing building and so fitting for a terrific afternoon. Outstanding performance. That's lifted us all up. Thank you, Governor Healey, Chief Justice Budd, Associate Justices, members and officers of the judiciary, Justice Breyer, many of our retired justices who are here, and all of our partners across branches of government. Bessie, you, your family, your friends, it's truly an honor to be here with all of you today to celebrate this swearing in of a new Associate Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court. As an attorney who has spent my own career in public service, I've been inspired by Betsy Dewar's career and by the leadership of so many in this room. As Lieutenant Governor, I had the great privilege of presiding over Betsy's Governor's Counselor's hearing, our first council hearing for an SJC nominee in this administration. And I want to thank the Governor's Council for their thoughtful work and their ongoing partnership. Their questions of the candidate were well-defined and designed to be introspective and gave everyone in attendance, as well as the counselors themselves, many of whom have joined us, greater insight into how Bessie would approach this important work. Bessie's witnesses at the hearing described someone whom any of us would be grateful to see on the bench, or really in our lives in any capacity. They spoke of her curiosity and her intellectual force, Bessie's ability to quickly pick up any new subject matter, grasp the key issues, and know the right questions to ask. They also spoke of her compassion. They said Bessie has never treated the law as an academic exercise, but as a force for positivity impacting the lives of real people. I also learned from the hearing that Bessie was inspired to go to law school when during college she volunteered in the evening teaching at the South Bay House of Correction in Boston. For all 4 years of college, Bessie taught GED students at South Bay. This was at a moment in the 90s after Congress had banned federal student aid for people behind bars and education programs dwindled. It was left to people, dedicated volunteers like Bessie, to step into that breach and keep the prison education programs running as best they could. Bessie's experience in that environment, seeing the humanity of those most profoundly impacted by the law, led her to a career of seeking positive change through the law. I've also had the good fortune to spend some time with Bessie myself. I've been incredibly impressed with her career of service as an appellate lawyer, her appreciation for the role and responsibility that she is about to undertake, and by her observations about what it means to be a public servant, and first and foremost, what it means to be a kind and decent person. Bessie's wisdom and commitment to the fair application of the law will serve our Commonwealth's highest court and all the people of Massachusetts with honor and fairness. I'm so excited to see what kind of path she takes as she embarks on this critically important role at this critically important moment in our state and, dare I say, our nation's history. So grateful to help shepherd this process along that has now resulted in your service to our state's highest court. Of course, none of that would happen without a recommendation from our governor, Governor Maura Healey, who saw fit to make sure we not only had someone who was kind and compassionate, but talent and of great intellectual mind to partner up with the justices we already have in place who always do their best in service to Massachusetts. I feel grateful to be able to serve an administration that puts values first, that recognizes the opportunities we have to make Massachusetts better, and to face that work with a commitment and with a sense of urgency, always, always grounded by how do we do it right? How do we do it better? How do we improve people's lives? So I'm here to say, lucky us for being in a position to have Bessie working for the Commonwealth in this very important role, and to introduce the person who's responsible for us all being here this afternoon, and that's Governor Healey, who has led this administration, captained our team, guided by ensuring that we can make Massachusetts more affordable, more competitive, and more equitable, and every single day expressing the sense of urgency and the privilege we have to be in these roles. It's my great honor to introduce Governor Maura Healey.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you, Justice Georges, and to everyone here, good afternoon. Chief Justice Budd, Justices of the Supreme Judicial Court, members of the State Judiciary, Justice Breyer, Attorney General Coakley, members of the Legislature, Governor's Council, District Attorneys, clerks, administrators, commissioners, court officers, Governor's Office Legal Counsel, and members of the Judicial Nominating Commission, distinguished guests, thank you for coming together at this historic courthouse for this important moment in our state's history. Justice Breyer, it is an honor to have you with us today. Your work has made the Supreme Court and our country a better place. You have been a dedicated advocate for the rule of law, who understands how government works for people, and always strove to make it better. I know Justice Breyer played an important role in shaping the lawyer that Bessie has been and the judge that she will become. Thank you. I would also like to recognize retired members of the SJC who are with us today. Your neighbor in the JP posse, Justice Botsford. Also joining us, Justice Cordy, Justice Cowan, and Justice Duffley. Thank you. Today we also celebrate Justice Elspeth Seifer and her distinguished career both on the appeals court and the SJC. Justice Seifer has been a dedicated public servant for most of her career, a distinguished career. She also served during that entire time as a role model for many, and today we thank Justice Seifer for her decades of exemplary service to our state and wish her the very best. Finally, I want to recognize what I believe are the most important influences on Bessie's life. Her mother, Allison, is with us today, her sister, Charlotte, and family, her husband, Alex, and daughters, Violet and Sylvia, who, by the way, and I mean no disrespect to our wonderful Governor's Council, but the kids sat through an entire hearing, which, as you know, is hard for some adults to do. So, great job, kids. It gives me great pleasure, and it's a privilege to say a few words about Bessie. Over her career, she's demonstrated tremendous skill as a lawyer and a colleague. She's shown a deep commitment to understanding, applying, and expanding access to justice. Those are the qualities that we as a society, as a state, and an administration want for our highest court. In Bessie Dewar, we are building on the strengths that have made this court, the Supreme Judicial Court, not only a nationally recognized leader, but a long-standing, globally recognized leader in the advance of justice. I also know Bessie to be an amazing person and friend. We worked together during major moments of her life and also during times of the kind of real challenges and unexpected events that we all face one time or another. Bessie is caring and kind and absolutely devoted to her family. She's resilient in the face of life's curveballs. She has an instinct for helping those who are vulnerable. And she inspires those around her to be better people. Those are qualities that too strengthen our legal system by grounding the work of justice in our shared humanity. The truth is, with her training, her experience, she could have made a legal career anywhere. Instead, she followed her Supreme Court clerkship with work at the Public Interest Law Center in Philadelphia. And then for a decade, she worked in the Attorney General's office under 3 AGs, representing the interests of the state and all of its residents. Of course, when I was Attorney General, Bessie was one of my closest advisors, helping me understand and inform all the work that we had to do. I can tell you more importantly, and it's evidenced by the number of folks from the Attorney General's office who are here today. And by the way, yes, David Kravitz sang at every single birthday party. He's also performing at Carnegie Hall tomorrow night, no joke. For all of us, Bessie was the go-to person. No matter the case or the context, we joke about the eggs case, but on the other side were a lot of people concerned about the price of eggs. Bessie found a way to navigate through it all. She was a pragmatic problem solver, really quick to understand the heart of any matter. And through it all, Bessie never hesitated to provide her full and complete and unvarnished analysis of the issue. What Bessie believed was the right answer, she would tell to anyone without hesitation. She was also a proven leader around consensus building. And I understand there's a little of that that's necessitated for a position like the one Bessie is going to assume. I can tell you there was no one better at building consensus, at working to bridge divides, find common understanding than Bessie Dewar. That included working with teams outside of the Attorney General's office. For many years, many Attorneys General offices around the country worked together in all sorts of litigation. But we needed somebody who could get state solicitors in other jurisdictions and offices to work together. That's not a simple matter, even when you agree on the issues at hand. And I won't go into the reasons why. But it required navigating a diversity of interests and sometimes divergent needs of the various offices. And so it was Bessie who emerged through that time as the leader of all leaders across offices around this country, to find compromise and to find agreement. Even in the most difficult rooms and the most challenging moments, Bessie makes everyone feel heard, understood, respected, and treated fairly. At her core, she is a fundamentally empathetic person. She has a unique ability to listen and to truly hear people. She fosters togetherness and collaboration. As an assistant state solicitor and then state solicitor, she oversaw virtually all of the office's appellate work in the Supreme Judicial Court, covering a wide range of civil and criminal issues. She also had experience as a member of several standing committees on both the appellate and trial courts. I can promise you this: Bessie Dewar is a person who understands and respects the rule of law, the role of the judiciary, and the role of each and every one of our great courts in this state and those who serve them. As an Associate Justice, Bessie will bring humility and respect for others to the role. She will serve with dedication and will thoughtfully and faithfully execute her responsibilities. Bessie, I hope that as you undertake your duties on this historic court, that you know that an entire community of colleagues, friends, and people across Massachusetts and America who you've helped stand behind you with support, gratitude, and admiration. And now, it is my honor to swear Bessie into our state's highest court. Would you please step forward?
I, Elizabeth Napier Dewar,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
and will support the Constitution thereof.
and will support the Constitution thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I
I, Elizabeth Napier Dewar,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties incumbent on me
as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court,
as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court,
according to the best of my abilities and understanding,
according to the best of my abilities and understanding,
agreeably
agreeably
to the rules and regulations of the Constitution
to the rules and regulations of the Constitution
and the laws of the Commonwealth.
and the laws of the Commonwealth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I
I, Elizabeth Napier Dewar,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Congratulations and welcome, Justice Dewar. Okay, I got you. No, you. Very important. You need my judges. Good afternoon.
It's humbling to stand here before you, and it also fills my heart with gratitude. After the past few pandemic years, I do not for a moment take for granted the ability for all of us to be together. No such happy gatherings were possible in 2020 as so many would have wished, to celebrate the oaths of Chief Justice Budd as chief and of Justice Wentland and Justice Georges, as they joined the court. Today, this tradition resumes, and I'm so grateful that you're all here with me. Mostly today, I want to give thanks to many of you for making this day possible and so much more possible in the future. But first, I want to offer a brief reflection on becoming the Supreme Judicial Court's 13th woman justice. Correction, 11th woman justice, sorry. Printed in your program is a quotation from Article 29 of the Declaration of Rights. I love it for the sense of both humility and resolve John Adams conveys, guaranteeing us free, impartial, and independent judges, albeit only so far as, quote, the lot of humanity will admit, unquote. But to be honest, this quotation was my second choice. I had wanted to feature the words of a woman, and I spent a lot of nights the last few weeks revisiting Virginia Woolf and Pauli Murray and reading interviews with and opinions of the SJC's first woman justice, as I think at least one person mentioned, Ruth Abrams, among others. When no quotation seemed quite right, I resorted to the Social Law Library and the Oxford Dictionary of American Legal Quotations. That thick volume, published in 1993, has an introduction with a really long list of all the people who are quoted at least 10 times in the book, headed by our own Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., quoted 255 times in the book. In the dozens upon dozens of people listed as being quoted at least 10 times, not a single one was a woman. This table to me was a rather pointed reminder of the extreme recency of a woman being appointed to this position, with indeed very little fanfare about my being a woman. I feel humbled and thrilled to be, as Justice Botsford mentioned, the fourth woman taking up this same seat held by Justice Seifer, and before her Justice Botsford, and before her Justice Sussman. I follow so many women before me who so often had to be first. In Justice Abrams' case, first and alone on the court for almost 20 years. To have made such progress on this front in such a relatively short amount of time is an achievement for Massachusetts and for our country, and gives me hope for the future. My thanks today must first of all go to Governor Healey for her kind words, for the tremendous honor of nominating me to the Supreme Judicial Court, and also for years ago giving me the incredible privilege and opportunity to serve as the Commonwealth's lead appellate advocate. Thank you, Governor Healey, for in so many ways making today possible. I would also like to thank Lieutenant Governor Driscoll for her kind words and her warm support through this whole process, as well as the members of the Governor's Council, the Supreme Judicial Court Nominating Committee, and the Governor's Legal Office for their crucial work in support of our judiciary. I stand here today thanks to the love, support, and guidance of so very many people throughout my life, above all my family. I certainly could not and would not be standing here today were it not for my husband and partner in life, Alex Welsh. I cannot do better than to follow the lead of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who took every opportunity to acknowledge how her own brilliant and kind lawyer husband made her professional life possible, all while also raising two wonderful children. Thank you, Alex, for everything, every day. I am also here thanks to my mother, Allison Richard, who is here today, and my late father, Robert Dewar. They never let my sister and me forget how incredibly fortunate we were to be being raised here in the United States with a roof over our heads in a loving home. And they took every opportunity to try to teach us to put ourselves in other people's shoes and to treat every person with compassion and kindness. My mother will always be my role model in putting one foot in front of the other and doing the very best one can amidst whatever challenges life presents. I'm also so fortunate to have the constant love, moral support, and lifelong friendship of my amazing sister Charlotte, who is 2 years younger than I am, but has also become a role model to me as a leader and mother and human being. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for being here for me today from across the Atlantic and always. I'm also so grateful for the support now and into the future of my dear friends, so many of whom are kindly here today from every stage of my life, from the tiny village of 500 people in eastern Connecticut where I grew up to my slightly more metaphorical village here in Jamaica Plain. I will be so grateful for your friendship in the years to come. My path here today was also paved by so many extraordinary mentors and colleagues. Thank you, Justice Breyer, for your generous words. I will be forever inspired by your steadfast optimism and unwavering commitment to defending the rule of law, not only in your decisions, but also through your efforts to increase public understanding of what judges and courts do. I was also very fortunate to get to work with and learn so much very early in my career from two other extraordinary judges and human beings, Judge William Fletcher on the Ninth Circuit and Judge Lewis Pollack in Philadelphia. As best I can recall my case books in law school, no other judge besides Judge Pollack was featured in back-to-back tour de force opinions reversing himself. First rejecting and then accepting the federal government's proffered fingerprint identification evidence. In my years working for Justice Breyer and Judge Fletcher and Judge Pollack, I so admired this quality of always being open to being convinced, and also having the humility and courage to admit that perhaps one's first impression of something was not correct. I will do my very best to follow their example in this and many other things. I'm also so very grateful to all my colleagues in the years since at the Public Interest Law Center of Philadelphia, in private practice at Ropes and Gray, and then over the past decade at the Attorney General's office under each of our first 3 women attorneys general, as well as the Commonwealth's first ever state solicitor and my extraordinary mentor, now Justice Peter Sachs. Thank you to all my colleagues for everything you have so generously taught me over the years through the example of your brilliant work, perseverance, integrity, and countless kindnesses. I must extend special thanks to David Kravitz for bringing such a wonderful voice not only to this occasion, but also in so many other ways in our years of working side by side. This now brings me to my thanks going forward, to the much overlapping group of people who will be so important to me in the years to come. For judges are at their most vulnerable when they go it alone, whether it be deciding a case on an issue not briefed by the parties or departing from all existing precedent and authority. This is, of course, not to say that judges should not have the courage to break new ground. The Supreme Judicial Court, so famously for centuries and continuing to today, has broken new ground and led our country to a greater understanding of our constitutional rights and liberties. But I know I will never truly be, quote, going alone in the most vulnerable sense, thanks to many of you here today. First, I would like to thank Chief Justice Budd and my fellow associate justices who have extended me such a warm welcome already. It is the honor of a lifetime to get to call you my colleagues. Thanks especially to Justice Georges for so kindly emceeing today and for your constant warm support to me and my family from the very first moment we met. Thank you also to Justice Botsford for your extremely kind remarks, as well as your unfailingly wise guidance. I feel so very humbled to get to sit in this seat on the court that was once yours, and I will do my utmost to live up to your extraordinary example of collegial generosity and tireless devotion to ensuring equal justice under all our laws. I also owe thanks already to the staff of the Supreme Judicial Court, who have given me the warmest possible welcome, including helping put on this lovely event, and whose colleagueship in the years to come I know will sustain and support me beyond measure. I will also not be going it alone, thanks to our appeals court, and I feel so honored that many members of that court are here today. As many of you know here, the appeals court decides the lion's share of appellate cases here in Massachusetts, and thus issues by far the most opinions interpreting and developing Massachusetts law. I will be so grateful to be in conversation with my appeals court colleagues in our decisions in the years to come. Finally, I know some of the most important support I will receive in my new role will come from outside this building, from the work of advocates, including many of you assembled here today. It will be your arguments to the court that will most directly inform my work and will be so very important in the hardest cases we face. There has been much discussion, for example, of the increasing importance of state constitutional law in areas where many state Supreme Courts have sometimes chosen to follow in lockstep with the United States Supreme Court's interpretation of analogous federal constitutional provisions. The freedom of a state court to chart a different path under our own state constitution is of course always open to us, but certainly the Supreme Judicial Court's understanding of Massachusetts' Constitution and all our laws will be enriched by the illuminating work you as advocates will do. I will close by saying just one final thank you to you all. With your support, I promise to work as hard as I can to fulfill my oath today and to serve the people of the Commonwealth as best I possibly can. Thank you all so very, very much.
So we're almost at the end. And with the ceremony now just about over, on behalf of Justice Dewar and her family and friends, we're going to invite you upstairs to the SJC conference suite for a reception in her honor. But before we conclude, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to all of the people that made today possible. In particular, Maura Doyle, clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court, Blanca Tosado, the SJC's Administrative and Program Coordinator Extraordinaire, Joe Carreri, and our interim Chief Court Officer, and all the court officers, but particularly those of the Supreme Judicial Court, Raul Pena, Tony Gross, and Danny Cochran upstairs. And the wonderful men and women of our media services and our facilities team. It could not have been done without you. When I started today, I told you that I had opportunity to sit down and hear from Bessie Stories, who she is, and now so do you. Bessie, this is a wonderful court with great colleagues and a wonderful chief. You will be amongst great company here, and so will we. We'll see you upstairs. Work, all right.